Have you ever felt like working harder, only to take home less? Strange, right? But what if I told you that this feeling, the invisible tug-of-war between effort and reward, is the same tension that governments wrestle with when they raise taxes? There's a fascinating theory behind this. It's not just economics, it's human behavior, and it was once scribbled on a napkin in a Washington, D.C. restaurant. Let's talk about why raising taxes doesn't always lead to more money for the government, and how the answer lies, not just in numbers, but in people. Imagine you're running a marathon. You're tired, but determined. You push through every mile, sweat pouring, legs burning. But the finish line? It keeps getting farther away. Every time you get closer, someone moves it. That's what high taxes can feel like for people. This is where the Laffer curve comes in. It's a simple, powerful idea. At 0% tax, the government earns nothing. Makes sense. But here's the twist: at 100% tax, where the government takes everything, it also earns nothing. Because if you get zero reward for your work, why work at all? Somewhere between those two extremes lies a sweet spot. A point where tax rates are high enough to fund public services, but not so high that they choke the life out of economic activity. This curve, named after economist Arthur Laffer, was famously sketched on a napkin during a 1974 dinner meeting with U.S. officials, a doodle that sparked decades of debate. And here's the psychological insight. People don't just respond to numbers. They respond to fairness, to motivation. If someone feels punished for their success, they'll stop trying. Or they'll move their money, their business, or their effort somewhere else. In the early 1980s, President Ronald Reagan cut the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 50%. Supporters said it unleashed growth and kept revenues steady, right in line with Laffer's curve. Critics, though, they pointed to rising deficits and warned the math didn't quite work out. Before that, in the 1960s, President John F. Kennedy argued for broad tax cuts that led to the Revenue Act of 1964. The economy did grow, but again, was it the tax policy or other factors? The truth? It's messy. Economic behavior is complex. There's no perfect formula. Here's a question from the flip side. What would you do if 90% of your next raise was taken away in taxes? Would you work that extra hour? Would you hustle as hard? Probably not. I once had a friend, a brilliant freelance designer, who hit a financial milestone. But when she looked at how much of it disappeared into taxes, she felt deflated. Not ungrateful, just disillusioned. So she scaled back, took fewer jobs, spent more time painting, less time chasing clients. Her output changed not because she was lazy, but because her incentive changed. That's what the Laffer curve captures. Not just a line on a graph, but the invisible thread between effort, reward, and trust in the system. So when we talk about taxes, let's remember it's not just math, it's motivation. Tax policy isn't just about funding schools or roads, it's about shaping human behavior. Push too far, and even the most willing contributor can walk away. Finding the right balance? That's not easy. But it starts with understanding the people behind the numbers. If this gave you a new way to look at economics, not just as theory, but as something deeply human, hit that like button, maybe share it with a curious friend. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. Because the more we understand how we're wired, the better we can build systems that work for us, not against us.